to the curb. And also, we need to do everything possible to fight parental alienation, because parental alienation is poisonous. It hurts fathers, it hurts mothers, it hurts grandparents, it hurts children, but most of all, it hurts children. I consider parental alienation to be child abuse. And judges in the state of Illinois should consider parental alienation in determining custody. And right now we call custody parenting time. It's just legal mumbo jumbo. It's still custody with a different definition, or a different word opposed to a different definition. So parental alienation is something courts should consider, and most judges will consider it in determining where children will live. And there are parents that have lost all contact with their children because of being alienators. I worked on one case where the mother was so angry that she took my client's little girl outside of the state to an area where none of her medical specialists were located, because this girl had terrible problems with her hearing and eyesight. And I believe the mother was doing this to cause this little girl to go blind and deaf. Luckily, through the court system, we were able to litigate and get the child back with dad, back in this geographic area, and get the little girl the medical care she needed so she wouldn't go blind, wouldn't go deaf. This is one example of how parental alienation can harm a child.
Yeah, so Attorney Jeffery Levin, I think that Meleika is going to bring on someone else because it is two-sided. Meleika?
Yes, as I said before, I have learned so much about this, and Anastasia has really educated me. She's sent content, and I am blown away that how so many women and men are using their children in relationships. So Anastasia, I know she really wants the audience to really get a good understanding of the targeted parent and the alienated parent.
Yeah, Doctor, if you're not speaking to you.
Hello, everybody. It's echoing a lot. So am I on your phone and Zoom at the same time? Can you please disconnect me from phone?
I did.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for inviting me for the show. Do you hear me all right?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm a co-founder of Chicago United Parents, an organization raising awareness of the family court crisis in Illinois. So English is my second language. I'm from Ukraine, and I went through this horrific form of child abuse as a child in Ukraine. Then with my own children in the United States, it seems to be a problem only in litigious countries. There are 22 million of alienated children in the United States, and that ruins their adult lives, which means we have 22 million of non-productive, traumatized adults in our society. It's a hugely important topic that we're discussing today. So parental alienation is when a loving, trusting child starts disrespecting, rejecting, judging, or being afraid of one of the parents in the midst of family court proceedings. This second part of what I just said is very important, because there is family court somewhere there, usually in the divorce or child custody cases. It happens to both moms and dads. Now, it used to be that fathers were mostly being alienated from their children, and that's why we see a lot of crime in Chicago now. And now it's more and more mothers who are victims of the same adversarial and inhumane family court system. So it's not father's rights issue, not mother's rights issue. It's children who are at stake here. Children have a right to not be traumatized. Children have a right to both of their parents. It's also a crime prevention issue, suicide and homicide prevention issue. It's also a child protection issue and the human rights issue. Like a U.S. Constitution gave us this right, and the Illinois State Court decides to take it away. So children are equally harmed whether you take their mother or their father away from their heart and soul. To learn more, go to Chicago United Parents website is chicago-up.org. It's chicago-up for unitedparents.org.
Yeah, well, you said a lot, but it's really what we have to recognize is that mothers and fathers that are fit to be in their children's lives are saying, I'm fit, I don't put my child in danger. I don't put my children in danger. Please don't take them away from me. We have a guest here today, Richard Thomas. We want to give him an opportunity to open up. And I see a good friend, Edward Bush, here that is suffering from cancer. Welcome to the show, everyone. Richard?
Good evening. Thank you so much for hearing my words. My words are a bit stressed because I just went through an unbearable tragedy that I will get to later. But as far as parental alienation, my story short was in the year 2003. I was a part of an American Dream family, no dysfunction. And in 2003, tragically, my wife wanted a divorce, which is her right to do. But then we both got introduced to the divorce court system. Neither one of us had claimed abuse on either one of us. There was no abuse prior to 2003, no accusations. Once divorce was filed for, I started to notice that my children were showing great disrespect for me, and I didn't know what the origin was. My wife was given temporary custody, and that's when the parental alienation really sped up. There was groundwork for the parental alienation done before.
So I don't want to stop you, Richard, but when you say parental alienation, that's a word that people don't understand. We know what it means to alienate. What do you mean that your wife started parental alienation?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Yeah, excellent question. In the most simplest term, parental alienation in the context of a divorce is when one parent attempts to sabotage the relationship. Now, this causes great stress on the children, developing children, and this negatively impacts their lives. I witnessed it myself. Let me give you examples. I have evidence, recorded evidence, that my ex and her members of her family, in the context of divorce, was playing the "Whose side are you on" game with my young daughter Rachel. Our young daughter Rachel, "Whose side are you on, mommy's or daddy's?" For which the only acceptable response was mommy. When you try to strip away half of a child's identity, it causes an internal torment. And I have other examples of a campaign, an ongoing campaign to delete me from the children's lives. And that culminated in one judge's decision that I will quickly read. Judge Larry B. Grimminger, dated December 5th, 2008, after we had a lengthy trial. This was one of many lengthy trials in our case. The evidence of parental alienation by mother of the children's relationship with their father is overwhelming. Services must immediately be instituted to address the issue of parental alienation. End quote. And the cavalry never came, even though the court system eventually, after I spent my life savings, came to the conclusion that extreme bizarre parental alienation had occurred in our case. The court still is woefully inadequate to seek the remedy for parental alienation.
So Richard, are you saying that no matter what, right or wrong, fit parents, regardless to whatever, it doesn't matter. The court is going to go by a standard. I mean, what's in the best interest of the child? Is that taken into consideration in family court?
What I found, not only in my case, but a multitude of court watching in many of the 102 counties of Illinois, is that early on in every divorce case, maybe it's the first meeting, second or third, somewhere along that line in the early stages, someone is the in group and someone is the out group. Someone is destined for non-custodial parenting, someone is destined for custodial. And then the person who is destined for non-custodial is put under an extreme unfair microscope. And the other parent that is being groomed for custodialship, that is things are seen in most favorable light to the custodial parent.
Yeah, that's, I think that Meleika, we have, because we have a male speaking here, but there is also females. So this family court is targeting women, men, and children are in the middle of it. And society and communities are suffering. Meleika, we have a lady here that can also testify just like Richard Thomas is testifying.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to discriminate. Doesn't matter what color you are, gender, it doesn't matter. It seems whoever has the most powerful attorney. The greatest
discriminator, if I was a sociologist, was in-group, out-group. Someone is identified as the in-group, someone is the other is the out-group, and they're treated extremely differently.
Yeah, let's bring on, is it Tina? Yes. Tina, you want to share your experience, please? Oh, we can't hear you.
Oh. We don't hear Tina. And so we also, you
know. We have LaShonda McKinney.
Yes.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening.
Hi, I just want to piggyback off of what Richard was saying, how they more go for the custodial parents, and now it's a money game as well, where if you have more money and you can afford to fight, that's basically the whole goal game to all of this is money and control. It has nothing to do with the policy anymore. It has nothing to do with the well-being of the children anymore. It's all about who has the most money so that they can contribute out of it, which is the judges and attorneys. The judges and attorneys do not have no best interest in any of these children's lives anymore in the court system. They're not being held accountable. There's a lot of us that even go to this extreme to go and report these acts that are happening in the courtrooms where these judges are committing fraud. And the judicial board and everybody else, the FBI, the attorney general, nobody is doing anything about it at all.
So in my case, are you a parent in child custody disputes?
Yes, I'm a parent of 4 children. My 3 youngest children were taken from me at a time where I was trying to move into a better living space for me and my children. I offered the kid's father to help me out. Instead of him helping me out, he went to the court system. He put an emergency motion in, and the judge granted him that without me even being present in court. So my due process was even denied. I went to court because I couldn't even believe what happened, because I'm a loving, caring mother and my kids was very well taken care of. I have no back history of no abuse, no neglect. DCFS is not involved. Anything. So it was just confusing to me that this even happened. But I do know that the judges retaliate, because I did go to the judicial board once before about this judge. And that's another thing that they do. They retaliate against you. And this is the out cause of it is they take your children from you and do whatever else they want, because they got me paying this man child support and he's making 3 times, 4 times, even 5 times the amount that I'm not making.
Wow.
So, and it's been 2 years that I've been fighting for visitation. Not only did they take my children from me, but they had kept my children away for 2 years without even having any visitation with them at all. And I hired 3 attorneys. The 3 attorneys came in and took my money, and they were having meetings with the judge and my kid's father, attorneys all together without me being present. So it's just very corrupted. None of this would even happen if the judges and the attorneys were held accountable for their actions that they are doing to people's families. They are actually making things worse than bringing everybody together. It would not be no parental alienation if the court system did what they had to do for each and every family.
Wow. So the courts are messing up families, in your opinion. Meleika?
Yeah, and there's no consideration children having to process what's happening. If they haven't seen one parent, there all sorts of things are going through their head, questions not being answered, because other adults are trying to protect them from the truth of what's actually happening, and then ends up hurting them more so in the end. It just really breaks my heart, and my heart goes out to all of you all and all of those listening who are going through this type of thing, and to the children out there who are really the ones on the losing end of all of this. And yeah, and I believe Barbara is on. She shared a story as well. Is
Yeah.
Barbara still with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there she is.
What you're saying is so true, because I really come from, my background's early childhood education, and I come from, what is right for the children. And when I went into mine, I was trying to be as diplomatic as I could. I felt very strong that my children needed their father there to have both parents. He wanted me to move away. And I said, I want my children to have both parents. And he had been, very active in their lives. But I knew parental alienation. I was suspecting it, but at the beginning part of a divorce too, you think the children are acting out and doing different things. And what happens, this is like cult behavior. It is brainwashing cult behavior. It is not the same behaviors as emotionally abused children, foster children. They all want to go back to their parent, but it is like a covert cultivation, and really to heal it, you have to use cult. And many therapists and professionals don't even understand. It's counterintuitive to what most approaches and protocols would be. And so it happens quickly. And once it's like they're radicalized, and they don't even realize those are not their thoughts, but it is against the other parent. And my daughter at 15 ended up taking her life in my former husband's home while he was home. Yet I am being targeted as the bad parent. And now this has gone on with my other daughter, and I'm like, they want to blame somebody. And I agree with LaShonda. Like, I had 3 different attorneys. My former husband was a PhD, a CPA, a college professor, stoic in the court. And I'm crying because my children are in trouble. I know my children emotionally are in trouble. So you get pegged, you get penalized. You don't know what attorneys. And I thought courts were justice. So I went in thinking, this will be just, this will be fair. And I didn't realize that family courts and family law does not follow the same aspects of other arms of the law. And I now, knowing what I know, but by the time we get divorced too, many people like myself, I was afraid to leave this narcissistic person because it is so difficult to leave that kind of personality. And I don't like labeling, but now I know today, and that, we used to call it controlling. But when, you are emotionally disruptive at that time even. And so having this, my goal is, by speaking out, I just became a published author with my story because I want to save the children. Like Anastasia said, our children are the collateral damage. And as Jeffery said, the crime is affecting our culture, our families, but it is not just men. It is happening with women too. And you let your child go see the other parent, they might not come back. I mean, there's so many factors you can't control. And the other thing, we're hushed. If you speak out, it's like you're penalized and you're labeled, and it's a crapshoot if you start to speak out, and you don't want to ruin your relationships with your siblings. And so you're alone in this journey. It's the most horrific thing that you can experience.
Well, Barb, we're sorry about your experience.
Yes.
I know, Meleika, you want to go to Edwin, but before we go to Edwin, we need Attorney Jeffery Leving to respond in brief, the family court system. Jeffery, I mean, you heard the complaints from these families. You've heard men, you've heard women, and they're complaining about this system. Jeffery Leving, attorney, you're in the court system. You heard the complaints about attorneys speaking behind the parents' back, making deals. Jeffery, what do we need to do?
The court system needs to be fixed. And the key is there are people out there that are finally realizing there's a problem. Legislative initiatives are critical. House Bill 620 is absolutely necessary. It needs to become law. The system is broken, but it can be fixed. It can be fixed, but it's not that simple. I represented a dad, a great dad. It was a terrible case of parental alienation. His little boy was scared to visit him because the mother convinced this little boy that dad had sexually abused him and the father had not. So there was supervision, there was a trial. At the end of the trial, I'll never forget this, the judge supervised my client's visitation with this little boy, even though the judge found that the abuse allegations were false, completely fabricated. The judge believed that the little boy needed to have a monitor, a supervisor, while visiting dad because the boy believed he was abused, even though he wasn't. So the abuse was false, it was fabricated, but the little boy believed it was truthful because of the horrific parental alienation. It never should have gotten this far. It never should have gotten this far. And there were mental health professionals involved. I cross-examined two of them and ripped them to shreds. And I believe both of them were either lying or not competent, or something else was going on, because they both supported a position supporting parental alienation. So fixing the system is more than fixing the system. It's fixing all the components of the system. This is a very terrible situation. And one thing we have to remember is the ultimate victim in parental alienation. It's not an issue of fathers, mothers, grandparents, families, even though they're all impacted. The issue has to do with the children, because parental alienation also separates siblings, separates children. It destroys relationships between children. I know a little boy that never even met his older sister because of suspected parental alienation, never met her. And she died. He never met her. They never met each other. And that little boy grew up and became a man, and that little boy is me. That's one of the reasons I do.
Wow.
One of the reasons I do this.
Wow, Jeffrey.
Oh,
Meleika,
wow.
I think Tina her mic is working because we need to go to Tina.
Thank you for that, Attorney Leving. Thank you. Okay,
Thank
Tina.
you. Hi, thank you so much for having me. This is all about racketeering. This has been set up for judges and attorneys to make millions and millions of dollars. This is what it equates to. If you don't have any money, you're not going to have long litigation, okay? What happens is you have attorneys that sit down, see the assets of the parents, and after that, it's all set up. This parental alienation would never happen. The judges allow this to happen. I have not seen my son in almost 4 years. My son was taken from me within hours of my husband's suicide. He was never returned back to the state of Illinois, which is technically kidnapping. I dealt with the FBI, met with them. They warned me about attorneys doing criminal activities regarding this. This is all about money. My son was diagnosed with adjustment disorder, depression, and anxiety. They don't care. They don't care. Prior to all of this, I coached soccer. I had, he also has a brother. So I have two sons that have been separated 2 years apart, 2 years apart. And what's so bad about all this is the corruption. It's the judges and the attorneys. They sit and plot and conceal and just scheme everything. They get all these psychiatrists together. They are all buddies. I've even traced where campaign donations are given to the judges. Until the FBI, John Walsh, the U.S. attorney, do what they should do, nothing will ever change. Mr. Ford, you can pass so many different bills. It doesn't matter. We have joint parenting agreement. We have best interest. They don't care about the best interest, because if they really did, none of this would happen. Everyone knows that the children.
Let's let Jeffrey Levin, the attorney, answer that, because that, I do believe that when you take away some of the judge's discretion, it helps. Attorney Tina said that it doesn't matter what the law says. You're in the courtroom. What's your take?
One thing I do is I study the judges before I even have a case in front of a judge, because you could have two different judges that could make two completely different decisions in the same case. So it's important to know who the judge is, because if you're in front of the wrong judge, hopefully your lawyer will know enough to file a motion for a substitution of judges to try and get away from that judge, if that judge could do something harmful to you or your children. So it's really important to study the system and know who is who. That's critical. There was one judge in a case I handled who I thought was horrific. We were having a pretrial conference, and in the conference, he was making fun of my client.
Jeffrey, Attorney Jeffrey, I just want to, because we only have a short period of time. The question is, she said there's nothing the law could do to fix this. Is it true? Is it, I mean, it's House Bill 620 something, even if we pass it, the governor signs it, becomes law. She says there's nothing it would do.
Nothing.
You can't do anything about it.
Well, if House Bill 620 becomes law, we're taking a good step in the right direction. We can't look at it from the position, well, forget about House Bill 620. Forget about correcting the current law and making it better. So there has to be a presumption that the best parent is both parents. If you don't do that, you're working with a current law that's antiquated, that's not working. So if you assume nothing can be fixed and you don't try and fix anything, then everything will remain broken. So you have to try and take these lemons and make lemonade out of them. The system's broken. We need new laws, legislative initiatives to correct these broken laws and make things better. Because right now, the way the system works, it starts out a free-for-all. And you have two parents fighting over the children, and each one wants to show they're better. They're the better parent. But if you have a law, House Bill 620, where there's a presumption that the best parent is both parents and that there should be equal parenting time for dad and equal parenting time for mom, it's going to solve a lot of problems. It's going to diffuse a lot of conflict. But is that going to save every child, every parent?
Best parents, both parents, and that there should be equal parenting time.
Devin, can you mute that person,
Dad and
please?
equal parenting time for mom.
Lashania, mute. All right. So that's good, Jeffrey. Let's go, Meleika. We need to go right now to, we have one more guest here that we should go to before we go to the callers. Oh, we got Edwin too. Go ahead, Meleika.
Yes. Edwin. I know
Yeah.
Edwin shared a story yesterday. I'm so moved by all of these stories, and I just can't believe all of this is going on. And I can't imagine that people don't pass this bill. I don't understand it, but please, Edwin, share.
Well, I want to agree with what Mr. Leving just said. LaShawn Ford's bill, Representative Ford's bill, is critical. It is critical that we go in with a presumption of equal shared parenting, independency of the custody litigation. Now, when we're all done, it could be different, but you will save an enormous amount of litigation. And these cases start out, they're shaped in the very beginning, in the first days and weeks of the proceedings. So if you go in with a presumption of 50-50 and the judge tells both parents, hey, no games, you're not going to have the false orders of protection. You're not going to have all the college savings emptied. And then on top of that, to have a clear and convincing evidence in order to restrict another parent's parenting time instead of preponderance of the evidence, that makes a big difference. And I believe that's what the Constitution already requires. But, sometimes I worked in Congress, sometimes the Congress has to clarify when the bureaucracy or let's say when the judiciary isn't following the rules. Some judges, you may go to a judge and the judge will say, this is a 50-50 courtroom. Well, congratulations, you just won the lottery. But that's not always the case. It needs to be uniform. When you go into court, it should be based upon the law, not on the people and the personalities. Now, when it comes to the issue of alienation, it is so important, and Representative Ford is doing amazing work in bringing this issue to light. A few things that I would like to say, because you'll hear a lot of terms. We've heard the term narcissism. There's all kinds of personality disorders that are associated with a parent who is aligning the children against another parent. They're called cluster B. There's 4. There's borderline, narcissistic, histrionic, and antisocial. They're all very related. Usually men are the narcissists. Usually the women have more borderline characteristics. But what happens in these courtrooms is that they see the judges and some attorneys and some untrained guardian ad litem, they see this behavior and they say, oh, these two parents just hate each other.
I didn't get that. Try again.
They say that.
Anastasia, let Anastasia ask your question.
Go ahead.
Oh, no. Sorry, it was.
So the
Sorry,
problem.
my computer started talking. I'm sorry. That's not me.
So the problem is that people who are untrained, including judges, I've been before judges that have said, oh, you two just hate each other. But it's not that. It's actually an absence of feeling. The parent who is doing this has a pathology where they literally feel nothing. And I'll give an example, because we're in the age of post-COVID now, where we're all doing Zoom hearings. We're bringing to light this issue. Okay, I have stage 4 pancreatic cancer. I have a life expectancy of months, if I'm lucky, a few years. So there's no custody battle that I can win. So I went before Judge Grace Dickler, who's the presiding judge of the Domestic Relations Division. She took my case for a bit. And my ex-wife, I was cross-examining my ex-wife, and I asked her, do I have cancer? And she's like, well, I don't know. And then later she stated at the end that I shouldn't have parenting time with my children because I may die on them.
Oh my God.
And I recorded it. I recorded this. Now, this is in the age of Zoom. I recorded her making that statement for a lot of reasons, because we all want to bring to the public what's happening in these family law courts. Well, Judge Dickler found out that I recorded it, and she ordered me to have supervised parenting time because I recorded it and got that statement out into the public. That was an order entered on December 6th of 2021. And she was clearly explicit that my parent, a terminally ill father, is going to get supervised visitation with his children for recording his ex-wife saying that he shouldn't have parenting time with his kids because he may die on them.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, Edward, we're so sorry.
Sorry. You know,
The atrocities that we experience are just unbelievable. So I know you all are being shocked, but this is like everyday life.
We have men and women being attacked by the court system. We have to go to Cara at this time before we go to our callers on the air. Let's go to Cara.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
So I'm the other side of this discussion. Actually, parental alienation was used in my case against me, and it ended up in the result of my 2-year-old son, James Riker Beal, dying. There was evidence of child pornography. There was evidence of rape. My ex had actually admitted to raping me 5 times, and he was still given unsupervised custody with my kids. I actually had evidence of this because during my order of protection, the text messages were presented along with my ex's own statement in court stating that he did send those text messages admitting to raping me. So I had my kids taken away from me because they were saying that I was alienating my ex because I didn't want my children around my ex who admitted to being a rapist and admitted to being a greater risk of rape to my children. Now, I am very sorry for Mr. Leving's experience where he was being told that he was sexually abused. That was not the case with both of my children. My son, who was less than 2, had a prolapse rectum the size of an orange. He was dying August 13th of 2019, high risk for morbidity, mortality, and complications, even with a rectal repair surgery. He ended up dying due to a cervical spinal cord injury. I'm not the only mother who has had to have her child die during family court. And it is one of the most saddest things that can happen to you. I still have to share 50-50 custody with this man, even though he has been charged with a Class X felony of criminal assault against myself, criminal sexual assault. He was charged with 2 counts of aggravated domestic battery against myself, and he was charged with 2 counts of domestic battery against myself. My daughter has been crying out for 3 years that she has been sexually abused. She has shown every sign of a sexually abused child. The therapists agree that she's been sexually abused. The court has actually ordered her to go to sexual abuse therapy with the Child Advocacy Center. And this man admitted that this hard drive full of child porn was solely his property. There is a statute that says that because he didn't have 3 years of possession
Well,
of
you
this
know
child
what? I know that I don't want to cut you off. Your story, more of your story is the court system failed and it's continually to fail children and families. I don't want to cut you off, but Meleika, we have to go to Dr. Pollock, and we have to go to Olga, and then we have to take calls. This is our last round. We got to go speed round at this time. Dr. Pollock.
I'll talk as fast as I can. You can hear me okay, right?
Yes.
Okay, just so, look, I sat in a courtroom and listened to Judge Raymond Collins say, I don't care what the evidence is, even if I believe 100% of it, I'm still giving 100% custody to the father with no contact with the mother whatsoever. Okay, the mother was pro se, and the judge allowed the attorney to testify. No, nothing from the mother, nothing from the father. 100% of the testimony was from the attorney. Since when are attorneys supposed to be testifying in court? Okay, this system is truly broken. The judges and the lawyers need to be taken out of it completely. And the shrinks that are involved in this, most of them are criminal anyway. You know, in a murder case, you have a shrink on each side. One that says the guy's completely nuts. The other one says he's completely lucid and can definitely stand trial. So the reality is that parents need to work this thing out. I don't know who they work it out with, but they need to knock this crap off.
You're right, Dr. Pollock. That's the good message, Dr. Pollock. Parents need to not take this to the courts. They need to work it out. That's very strong, and I agree with you. We have to go to Olga, and then we got to go to calls. Callers on air. Olga, are you there? Olga, she's not there. All right, Devin, let's go to our callers. Caller 1.
John.
Yes, hello?
Hey, John. Let's go, John.
Can you hear me?
We got 2 minutes.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, move it.
Yeah, so I just wanted to, my question was for Mr. Leving. First, I wanted to thank him because he helped a good friend of mine who was dealing with a really difficult custody case, get visitation with his children in custody. But I'm dealing with a little bit of parental alienation myself. I've been unemployed for several months because of COVID. I got laid off. I can't afford my child support, and the mother of my children is constantly telling my kids that I'm a deadbeat dad and that I'm no good, and I could see it affecting our relationship. And my question was, what can I do to stop that? And also, my child support hasn't changed since I've been unemployed, and it's really difficult to pay. And I wondered what I need to do to have that adjusted as well.
John, that's a good question. And Jeffrey, you're an attorney here. Can you answer in short? We only have 3 minutes. What can he do? Child support, can't pay it. Mother says you can't see your child.
Well, first of all, child support has to be taken seriously because the system does find dads in contempt and incarcerate them for non-payment. He needs to get a petition, a pleading before the court to abate support until he's employed and financially able to pay support.
Does that allow him to see his child if he abates?
Then he needs also to either get a visitation order, or if he has one, he needs to file a contempt petition to enforce it. And by doing that, she could end up incarcerated. All right, I always like to use honey before vinegar, but that contempt petition needs to get filed. He doesn't have to actually litigate it unless he has to, but she has to know he means business, because this is really serious. So it's a two-pronged issue here. He has to file the pleading to abate support, and also get a visitation order, and if he has one, enforce it. Now, there's other ways to do it. This
Good
is
enough
what
for
I-
him. That's good enough for him. He's got to get legal advice. We got to go to another caller. Caller number 2. You're on the air. Chicago Hill.
Jeff.
Hey, Jeff. Jeff, you're on the air.
Yeah. I'd like to say that I think what Mr. Leving has done in fighting against parental alienation and gender bias in the court system is fantastic. And I wanted to ask him what he thinks the biggest obstacle in the judicial system is right now that fathers have to overcome.
The biggest
Jeffrey,
obstacle
you got to
right,
answer quickly.
the biggest obstacle right now is not having House Bill 620 as law. That's the biggest obstacle. It needs to become the law.
We're going to go to caller 3. Thank you, Jeff. Caller 3. Devin, bring
Sandy.
them on. Caller 3.
Yes.
you're
Hello.
there.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
yes.
Yes. Okay. Hi. My name is Sandy. I've been in the court system for over a decade. I am a pediatrician who has 4 children who were taken from me on an ex parte hearing when I was not given notice. The attorneys and child reps wrote in the orders that they gave me notice. This is the type of corruption and the types of things that really actually happen in the court system. It is parental alienation that occurs because of closed systems where the children are not allowed to speak to the parent that was taken away from them. They're alienated from cousins, their only cousins, grandparents over a decade. This continues and continues, and the abusive alienator parent does not allow the children to reach out to them or vice versa.
Yeah, that's great. We lost her. Her phone cut out. We got to go to Anastasia right now because there's a date coming up on April 25th, right, Meleika? Anastasia, tell us about that date.
Well, actually, every year on 25th of April in every country, there is a International Parental Alienation Awareness Day. It often features a blue color heart or blue ribbon. So this year, 25th of April is Monday. So we decided to host an awareness flash mob event. It's like a group dance on Saturday, 23rd of April. So if you want to support the Words Movement in Chicago, come at 2 o'clock. So like between 2 and 2:15. So the music, the song, this classic rock song starts playing at 2:30 p.m. by the Water Tower Place. The address is 875 North Michigan Avenue. So the dress code, it's very important to be dressed all the same. It's all black color clothes with blue ribbon everywhere and your hair holding in your hands and so forth. So, and dance actively any movements you can think of, so to attract attention. So we all going to do this to raise awareness. It's a song that's called it's called Putting Up a Fight. A very powerful song.
Tell us the date again, and that's all we need, how they can reach you, because we got to cut the show.
It's Saturday, 23rd of April. My phone number is 312-254-6001. Go to chicago-up.org.
And this has been another episode of Chicago Hill. Meleika, what do you say?
Oh my God, please let that bill pass. Let that bill pass. And it does come down to good versus evil. And I would love to hear from the attorneys who are just taking this money and the judges taking this money and hurting the children. We're all about Chicago Heal. And please get those children, get these children caught up in this system, get them some mental health services, because it will have an impact.
And this is going to be the conclusion. Richard, until we cut off, give us your word.
Thank you for everyone tonight. I heard being
You got like
involved.
10 seconds.
Get involved in legislation. There is a solution. We have to believe, come together, that love will conquer hate.
Love will conquer hate. This is another episode of Chicago Hill. Let's have families first.
It's Chicago's Dance Factory Radio on 92.7 WCPY Arlington Heights, online dancefactoryfm.com.